Hey, welcome. Today, we're going to dive into something, well, kind of mind-bending. In this constant chase for freedom, have we accidentally trapped ourselves? Have we become slaves to the very idea of being free? It's a paradox that might just make you look at your daily grind a little differently.
All right, so let's kick things off with a feeling I bet you know, even if you can't quite put your finger on it. I'm talking about the invisible chains of modern life.
This quote, wow, it just nails the trap of modern life, doesn't it? We've gone from a world where someone else tells you, you must do this, to one that says, you can do anything. And yeah, that sounds amazing, but there's a catch. The pressure isn't coming from some boss or king anymore. It's coming from inside of us.
And that leads us to this really key idea, self-exploitation. The concept is that we've kind of internalized the master. We're not just employees anymore. We're entrepreneurs of our own lives. We're constantly optimizing, performing, pushing ourselves to the absolute limit, all for the sake of success and fulfillment. We've basically become our own worst boss.
So it all boils down to this, right? Is this constant hustle actually making us free? Or is it just created a new, sneakier kind of slavery? I know, that's a heavy thought, but hang in there with me, because we're about to flip this whole thing on its head and look at a radically different perspective.
Okay, so if we're all tangled up in these invisible chains, how do we get out? Well, the answer might be in an ancient idea about service that sounds, well, completely backward at first.
Yeah, that's a jarring statement, and it's meant to be. In a culture that is obsessed with you do you, the idea of willingly choosing a master sounds insane. But the point here isn't about oppression, it's about allegiance. It suggests that every single one of us serves something. Maybe it's our ambition, our bank account, or what other people think of us. So the real question becomes, what are you really serving?
So here's the choice it lays out. On one hand, you've got the total burnout that comes from serving the tyranny of your own ambition, that constant need for more. And on the other hand, there's a different path, escaping that tyranny by submitting to a master who's described as good and kind and loving.
And look, this isn't some fringe idea. The Apostle Paul, one of the most influential people in all of history, chose this exact identity for himself. He could have listed his credentials, right, as authority. But no, the very first thing he says in his letter to the Romans is that he is a bondslave. This totally reframes service, not as a weakness, but as a chosen identity rooted in strength.
This chart here just lays it all out so clearly. First up, you have historical slavery. The master, a human owner. The motivation, coercion, pure and simple. Then you've got our modern problem, self-exploitation. The master is ourselves, or society's expectations, and the motivation is ambition. But then, look at this third column, theological servanthood. The master is God, and the motivation, it's love. It's a voluntary choice. It's a whole different ballgame.
Okay, so what does this life of a servant actually look like day to day? If it's not about being your own boss and hustling 24/7, then what in the world is it?
This right here, this quote from Matthew 20, it just flips our whole idea of power completely upside down. In the world, being great means being in charge, having people under you. But in this way of thinking, greatness is found in becoming a servant to others. Real leadership is serving people. It's a total inversion of how we normally measure success.
What this really means is letting go of that frantic white-knuckle need to control everything. Instead of just relying on our own clever strategies and five-point plans, this life is about a radical kind of dependence. It's about putting prayer and waiting for guidance ahead of just plowing forward with our own strength.
And get this, here's a powerful real-world story from a pastor named Bill McLeod. His church tried everything, all the typical programs and outreach events, and after a massive amount of effort, they got 2 converts. 2. But then they shifted gears. They just started praying for people by name. The result? 70 people converted. 70! The difference is just staggering.
Okay, so here's the crucial thing to get. This isn't just about changing your habits or trying some new self-help trick. The claim here is that something much, much deeper is going on at the very core of this change.
The fancy theological word for this is regeneration, and it's defined as a supernatural work. Notice that word supernatural. It's not you trying harder. It's not about willpower. The idea is that this is something God does, fundamentally changing a person's entire nature from the inside out.
And this is the promise at the very heart of it, from the book of Ezekiel, chapter 36. Think of it this way. It's not a home renovation, it's a full-on heart transplant.
The idea is that our natural state, our heart of stone, is cold and unresponsive toward God. Regeneration is the act of God removing that and giving us a heart of flesh that's soft, alive, and can actually respond to Him.
So, let's walk through that. Step 1 is recognizing our default setting is that heart of stone. Then the change happens, not because we earned it, but because we receive a new heart as a supernatural gift. And the result? You get a new way of living, not because you're forced to, but because your want to has been completely rewired from the inside.
Okay, so what's the end game here? If you actually give up being your own master, what's the result? Is it weakness? Is it boring? Well, the result is, surprisingly, incredibly powerful.
And here's that paradox again. I mean, everything in our culture screams that submission is weakness, right? But in this framework, true submission to a good master is the actual source of incredible strength. And it's not just about you having personal peace. It's seen as the very thing that can transform entire communities.
And this isn't just some abstract theory. You can look at history. Take the Welsh revival back in the early 1900s. I'm talking about a time when society was just radically transformed. And the people who were there said it was because of one simple thing. The people of Wales stopped relying on their own programs and just opened their doors to a power beyond themselves.
You know, this whole idea of transforming a society makes you wonder, how many people does it actually take to make a real difference? The answer might be way smaller than you think. Let's just look at this number, 10. There's this ancient story in the book of Genesis about the city of Sodom. And in it, God makes this incredible promise to Abraham. He says that if just 10 righteous, submitted people could be found there, He would spare the entire city. Just 10. For 10 people, He would spare a city of more than 10,000. That's an incredible ratio, right? It just goes to show you the insane influence a tiny group of committed people can have. And that brings us full circle, right back to where we started, but now with a totally new way of looking at it. Our culture keeps telling us that to be truly free, we have to be the absolute master of our own destiny. But as we all burn ourselves out trying to do that, this ancient idea offers a pretty startling alternative. So in our burned-out world, could it be that true freedom isn't found in finally becoming your own master, but in choosing a better one? It's definitely a paradox worth chewing on.